Beyond.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond. I am Max Scoville. Joining me today, Marty Sleva.
Hey.
Brian Altano. And Eden Rohatensky. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
I've literally never said that right before in my life.
You've said that right 5 times.
Eden.
I've counted.
That's such an exotic name.
Wow, that's really a weird thing to count. Eden, what do you do? Who are you?
I'm a full-stack engineer at Vox Media, publisher of Polygon.
You build computers?
Sometimes.
You build the inside of computers.
Yeah,
which is
I
math.
built the tubes that are the internet.
Good.
There's
good.
What's a full stack?
A full stack means that I do like back-end programming and front-end programming.
Oh, that's
It
confusing.
basically makes me sound like a sleazy dude in a bar,
Yeah,
but programming.
That's true. Yeah, I'm gonna start telling people I'm a full stack programmer.
That's not, I just think of pancakes. That's delicious. You also podcast.
Yes, I am the host and co-founder of the Jimmy and Eden Podcast Network. And we make a podcast that's not about video games.
With a man named Jimmy Champagne who does a lot of freelance news
Yeah,
stuff.
he
for
freelances
IGN,
here. I
right?
forgot
And
about
he was
that.
at Beyond 300. We met Jimmy Champagne's
He
dad.
has excellent hair.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good friend of the show. Probably one of the best names in the world for somebody that isn't a lounge singer.
Yeah, weird that your name is Jimmy Champagne and that when people meet you, it's not in like a VIP area.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You're not like, there's no money floating in the air around you.
He owns no neon-colored blazers.
That's really weird.
Nuts.
He's kind of blowing it actually. He's squandering the name.
That's
when
weird.
I released my album, I told him he had to do PR for it because it sounded really funny to have Jimmy Champagne a PR man.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
true.
Or
Yeah.
a hype man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
call him.
Do they still have hype men?
I have
Yeah.
them.
Has there ever been a hype woman?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's been hype women.
Was like
Lil Debbie was a hype woman for Krayshawn.
oh
Wow.
I thought
All right.
I thought you meant Lil Debbie like the cupcake heiress.
I mean, she was technically a
Nope.
hype woman for her cupcakes too.
Yes, and cough syrup.
Well, welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome. This is Podcast Beyond. If you're for some reason just tuning in, is a show about PlayStation.
Yeah, the world's
And
#1 PlayStation podcast.
They have games on them. I'm going to be just up front here, and it's apparently bad form to do this, but it's a really slow news week.
It is a
There's
super slow news
really
week.
not a lot happening.
Yep.
We had a lot of cool stuff to talk about last week. I guess we do have Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. Is that what it's called?
Sure.
Yeah, which we sort of touched on last week, and we kind of knew that's what it was about.
Right.
Well, I went on the record and said I hope it's not a mobile game, and it's not. So
You did it!
All
Mazel tov!
Yeah, we will specify it is a slow news week so far, but in Podcast Beyond History, we'll probably say a bunch of things that will be proven wrong by
it's
tomorrow.
a slow news week in that it is 2:00 on a Monday.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So by the time you hear the show, there might be, who knows, maybe David Jaffe stole a
announced
real car.
Halo 7 for PlayStation.
I don't think any of those things are happening. So for this episode, we ended up digging into the mailbag. We went to the Facebook group, and we got some suggestions for topics. I think we looked at a tweet. It didn't have anything to do with this, but it was a sponsored tweet.
I showed you guys a
Game
tweet
of
earlier
Fire.
of a pug wearing a T-shirt with a picture of a pug on it, which is pretty good. That was
That's
a good
my
one.
favorite thing.
That was
Yeah.
a good one. Here's a big thing. We've been talking about this kind of on and off nonstop for a while now. Bloodborne, big old game. A lot of people have been playing. A lot of people have probably finished it at this point, or they've kind of they've chewed it up and it's approaching the end. What next?
Yeah, that's last week, Brian. You told the story about how you fell out of love and then back in love with Bloodborne, and how you almost quit your game of the year.
I almost left, and then I came back.
And now you're back. You're killing witches.
I'm
You're talking with Shuhei Yoshida about
Doing
killing
really
spider
good.
women.
Yeah, how cool is that?
Yeah.
What a world we live in.
Yeah.
I beat the One Reborn on my first try, which is like this boss that just murders everybody, and I just felt like amazing walking into his dumb house and killing him.
I want you to know that the way you talk about Bloodborne.
Bless you.
Bless you. Little old mouse sneezes. The way you talk about Bloodborne is the way other people talk about exercise.
Yeah.
And I feel that same level of alienation.
Right.
It's funny, you went on that big thing last week and talked about how excited it was, and I'd heard the first half of that. I'd heard the part where you were giving up because you were tired of the loading times and you didn't want to do the work.
Yeah.
And that's when people are like, man, I hate going to the gym. It's tiring. But then the part 2 of that is they're like, yeah, I lost 30 pounds and I can now lift up parts of cars. You are like, yeah, man, I did a 5K. I've been really trying to do the quads.
Yeah, totally.
And you're telling me, I fought the Reborn and it was satisfying. I got my reps up and
That
I
was
got
my personal trainer, apparently.
I don't know.
I'm just as confused by exercise people. Actually, I have free weights in my apartment, and a couple days ago I went to use them, and I was just like, what's like the proper form? Because I know when you exercise at home, you can really mess your stuff up if you don't know what you're doing. That's health facts from Brian Altano. And I went to look up how to lift frit, and I got to the FR, and Google was like, how to lift the front of a truck. And I was like, yo, Google, we're not there yet.
Yeah, but back to Bloodborne.
Yep.
Is
You
what
brought it to exercise. Don't get it back to Bloodborne on this for me, Mr. Man.
I love how you wanted to just clarify that you do sometimes exercise too. You're like,
Not
well,
really.
just I tried, but then I found out about how to live the secrets of truck exercises.
Truck exercises.
Isn't that a CrossFit gym? Isn't
yeah,
that what
Truck
they do?
exercise.
Truck
No,
exercise,
so
yeah.
I'm playing Bloodborne. I love it. It's doing that thing, and I was talking about it last week. It's this constant it kills you and kicks your ass and then makes you better, and then you come back and keep playing it. And I really like that sort of conditioned response that comes with it. And I get it from certain kind of like roguelike games. There was a couple games last year that were
Yeah, I mean, like Rogue Legacy did that.
Yeah.
Spelunky did it.
Yep. Where you're just like, I'm improving, and I know I'm improving.
Yeah.
And it's rewarding me because of that. So it's sort of a two-part question. One, where can I find more experiences like that? And two, what are these guys doing next? Because I talked to you about Dark Souls, and you said to me basically, I said, should I go back and play these games now that I'm really getting into Bloodborne? Like, it's like I want to hear the other albums that the band made, you know?
Sure.
And you're like, no.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people have been asking this too, because it's like, so last week, Scholar of the First Sin came out for PS4 and Xbox One, and it's like, well, if I love Bloodborne, should I go back and play this? And I'm like, you probably should, but I think a lot of people who love specific things about Bloodborne aren't going to love specific things about Dark Souls 2. Like, first off, the Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin stuff is way harder than Bloodborne. Like, it is mean. It is cruel. It is a really crappy first step into the series.
Really?
Like, if that's your first game, this game is incredibly difficult. Your weapons break all the time. The enemies are just rude. They're just being foul.
That's a weird thing for them to be just rude.
Yeah, it's
Was
just
it
rude.
like they actually insult you on top of
insult, yeah, because if you have a PlayStation Eye, it like looks at you and it
Hey,
judges.
fatty.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
assesses your body type and probable insecurities.
Yeah.
Cool hairline, idiot, and then
yeah.
they smash your sphere in half.
So yeah, that's a weird, like, I don't know. It's the thing that makes sense to go to next, but one of the games coming out, I think this week, is Titan Souls.
Titan Souls
And
is
that's
the
a
jam.
game that I feel like, even though it looks super different, that it's a game that kind of makes sense to go to next. Have you heard about Titan Souls? Have you seen
Not
it?
very much, no.
Yeah, so it's this top-down, it's this indie game that like one dude, again, this is like the year of the one dude games.
Yeah.
A one dude game is a genre what one dude made. I made that genre up.
Okay, one
Yeah.
dude games.
One dude games. But it's
Not all
like
one dudes.
Women games.
there could be one women games. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Depression Quest is a one women game. But it's like it's
Nope, that was two people.
Was it? Well, two people games is that a new genre?
They're
That's called a duo.
Two-player
games,
Yeah.
duo games. But so Titan Souls is top down. You're this little wanderer who's wandering through this landscape, and you can kind of go wherever you want. And the whole thing is fighting these handful of bosses. That's the only thing in the world you really interact with are these bosses. The game is one hit kill, and your only weapon is a spear or like an arrow that you fire. Then you have to go retrieve it, or you can call it back to you.
It sucks.
That sounds like real life.
It is
Yeah.
like it is real life the game.
It sounds like if you asked about a game that your friends were playing and they didn't want you to play it and they just started describing it, they're like, there's all you do is fight guys bigger than you, and if you hit you once you die, and the only weapon you get is a little bow and arrow, but you have to charge it up. Like you gotta hold it down so that it shoots the arrow, and then after you shoot it, you don't have any more, so you have to go get the arrow.
Yeah.
So it's like the projectiles work like Nerf guns.
Yeah, it's
But a
literally
little
like
bit-
if you were a kid and you had like a little toy bow and arrow
Yeah.
and you have to go in your yard, but you shoot it at something and you're like, I got you, and then you have to actually go pick it up yourself.
But
And
you can draw it back to you though,
And the bosses kill you instantly.
in one hit. Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Can
And the
you kill
bosses.
them one?
Damn.
No, it takes many hits to
That
kill them.
is rude.
That is rude.
So
Super rude bosses.
I played this game. I got an early build of it for. I was doing this thing when I was still at Destructoid. I was doing a live stream series sponsored sort of by Devolver Digital, who's putting this game out, and they're madmen, where they would send us a build of a game and then liquor to go with it, and it was sort of themed. Like they sent us the Talos Principle and then like absinthe with like an absinthe
Okay.
spoon
I
and
love
like
that.
sugar cubes. They're
Yeah.
like, this is a drink of philosophers. Here's a deep game that makes you think. But then they're like, yeah, Titan Souls. Here, have this incredibly heavy medieval looking like mead or something. And we're like, all right, sure, why not? But it's just mead. We should get bourbon too. We got
Did you mix the bourbon with the meat?
I don't know what we were doing. It was dumb. But that's a really hard game to play normally. And have you talked about that peak you reach when you're drunk and gaming at the same time, and you find that balance point?
Yeah, somebody actually wrote in with the name of it. I forget what it is because
Yeah.
I don't retain information or
Balmer's
read.
Peak.
But
Balmer's
That's what,
Peak?
that's what we
that's
call
what
it
it
in
is.
programming.
That's exactly what it is. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I knew it was up there somewhere.
So that's like often used in programming, and I never actually hit it. I just get really drunk.
Does it
and
have?
trouble.
Is there like a
It's like-
version of it that doesn't involve getting drunk?
like smoking weed?
I guess.
I think it's a
Or
rise
like
high.
Yeah, like I was thinking if there was like a sober person's version
Probably
of.
not. I don't know.
of
I mean, there's
like-
also
named
there's a
after-
certain like a sleep deprivation version of that.
Yeah.
Like if you've gone long enough without sleep, you sort of hit this
Yeah.
weird
Something
creative
clicks.
point. But if you go too far, then you just become a kooky person.
Yeah.
A cookie person?
A coconut
A
man.
kooky, a cacophonous.
But yeah, so Titan Souls is I was expecting to really hate it, and initially it does kind of slam your fingers in the door. It's just very difficult. But then once you kind of loosen up and kind of get in the flow of things, it gets like you find the best way I can find this term is the wiggle room. You find like the space that you can kind of you can kind of just. Like in Hotline Miami, when you get mad at the game and you throw yourself at it, and you're just like, "But this isn't gonna work," and then suddenly beat a level. Like
Yeah.
that kind of that margin of just throwing caution to the wind and seeing what's gonna happen. Titan Souls very much has that. There still are like strict boss patterns, but there's like a tiny bit of just like you're not sure what you're doing, and it's very satisfying. I managed to get really just crap house drunk and kill some big monster bosses, and I was
Yeah,
really
that
proud
sounds
of
awesome.
myself.
Yeah.
I'm totally, and that's out this week, right?
It's out this week on PS4. Brendan Terrell reviewed it, gave it an 8.0.
Great.
Nice.
Yeah, it's this weird. It looks like the bosses look like they're from Link to the Past, but the game sort of the layout feels like Shadow of the Colossus. Super cool. It's just that recurring trend of it seems like every week a cool rad indie game comes out.
It's
for PS4.
a good one. It's definitely, if you're coming down from Bloodborne and you want something that's challenging but not like maybe quite that level of an investment, this would probably be a good candidate.
And so the second part of your question was, what do we want to see from Soft next?
Yeah.
And we're getting a lot of people are like, well, Dark Souls 3, which kind of makes sense because Dark Souls 2 was last year. People want Bloodborne 2, which Bloodborne was the Sony said the number one digital game on PS4 in the month of March. Obviously, a lot of qualifiers, but obviously it sold very well.
Yeah, which is always fascinating to me when a game like that. I guess it shouldn't, but when a game like that sells so well digitally because it is just physically a gigantic
Thing.
investment to
Yeah,
download
yeah,
on your
yeah.
PS4. Like PS4s don't ship with 60 terabyte drives or anything like that, so
Yeah.
you're actually eating up a chunk of your hard drive downloading it. But
Yeah, I've ran out of space on my PS4 and my Xbox One very quickly, which
yeah.
is a bummer.
Have you ever done the hard drive swap?
No,
No,
that sounds
Not yet?
scary.
Yeah, I want to do that. One
I
of these days.
I put a 32 megabyte thumb drive in there, and that did not help.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
As much as I want Bloodborne 2, we're obviously not going to get that for a while. But
Yeah.
we've seen DLC from these guys in the past, so we'll
Yeah.
probably get something, right?
Yeah, so Demon Souls never had DLC, but the original Dark Souls had the Prepare to Die edition, which had the Arturius of the Abyss DLC, which was rad. 3 pieces of DLC for Dark Souls 2 were all really cool. So I would imagine Bloodborne will get some sort of DLC. But then we were talking about, well, what like maybe FromSoft should do something else.
They did Armored Core.
They did
right?
Armored Core.
which I think that's one of those things I keep forgetting because it doesn't seem like it makes any sense.
Yeah,
Right.
and so I would love the idea of sort of the framework of the Souls series, but with robots.
I'd be down with a really like a super duper like permadeath. Like I mean, think like what that game for Xbox that had the giant huge controller setup.
Steel Battalion?
Steel
Yeah.
Battalion. Where like you ever hear about this, Eden? So there was this game, Steel Battalion. It came with like a giant 3-piece like joystick cockpit you had to
Yeah.
put together. That
Yeah.
only worked for this game. It had like there was like one sequel or one expansion pack.
but it was like $200 for the controller.
Yeah, and you had to put your memory card into the actual deck itself, and there was an eject button, and basically like if your mech got effed up enough that you had to eject, like you had to eject or like wipe your save.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It was obscene.
So it was like,
just,
you hit that point where like the mech is about to blow up,
Yeah.
and if you don't eject, the mech blows up, you die, and you have to restart the game. But if you do eject, your mech still blows up, and you don't have that mech anymore.
I had a friend who, when this game came out, he was in the dorms at my college, which was in New York City, and his dorm room was 4 feet by 6 feet. It was basically a prison cell, and he bought this thing, and it took up half the room, and he was just like, "I don't care. I get to fight mechs on my TV," and I was like, "Dude, maybe get a Game Boy."
Yeah.
Like this thing it looked like 3 mixing boards from like a sound studio glued together with giant joysticks all over them.
That's
We
nuts.
still use them. We have one in the office that we still use for a prop every now and then.
No, it's a great role play.
Yeah.
People had very different childhoods than me.
Really?
That was
They
like
didn't have that in Canada.
I don't know
No.
who had that. I don't know anyone who had that. Someone sent that to the Destructoid show, and we had that on the set. We didn't really ever know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But, that being said, I love the philosophy of like, your robot is really important to you, and if it's getting messed up, you need to get out or you're gonna die. Like that kind of investment. Maybe not the physical monetary investment in the actual prop peripheral.
Totally.
But I'd love to see FromSoft do something on a larger scale than like Bloodborne or Dark Souls, because you're always taking care of like one dude.
Mm-hmm.
What if they kind of adapted like that for FTL approach, where you're running a spaceship, or like you have a giant mech and you're exploring unknown territory, and it's still like a totally ruthless and brutal experience, but
You're being followed around by Pikmin.
Pikmin?
You are Captain Olimar in the next suit.
Yeah, you got like little guys, like your souls or maybe your crew. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like that. I just feel like it always it loses the kind of connection of intimacy I have when there's like a sole protagonist that I'm improving. But I guess there is that kind of disposable nature of taking a whole bunch of people and killing them off. That's kind of awesome.
I don't know. It's kind of a long walk there, but I do love. I'm curious to see what they would do if they went. I mean, Bloodborne and Dark Souls are they're fantasy hack and slash basically.
Yeah.
I'd be really curious to see what they did with a shooter of some kind. You know, like here's a game where you have a gun, and maybe it's like a space gun, maybe it's a regular gun. I don't know what the deal is, but it's taking that same kind of like really just hitting you hard and like training you and making you actually work for your stuff. Where it's like you get shot and you're gonna bleed out. You know, it's not. It's like a one-hit death kind. I mean, that's
Which is interesting because if you look at Bloodborne, so much of the combat, or almost all of the combat, is so head-on. Like your gun is ostensibly just an interrupt. It's not something. It's not a projectile-based game. So to make a game like that where there's that distance, I think would be really fascinating to have that kind of have the weight and fear of dying in that game, but coupled with the fact that you could have battles from across a football field.
Yeah.
Not an actual football field. That'd be weird.
It would be weird from something
Like robot jocks.
Robot jocks.
I mean, I read this interesting thing. I think Cliff Bleszinski was writing about this a while ago, but he was explaining basically one of the reasons that there are so many first-person shooters, or why there are so many shooters in general, is that it's generally pretty easy to map a line. You know,
Yeah.
like if something is shooting in a straight line, you're like, there you go. There's your bullet going a direction. You know, I'd like to see when you take that kind of not necessarily lazy game design, but that like kind of that almost lazy concept of shooting dudes, and then filter it through that really just hard-boiled, challenging, punishing.
What if it was like that movie with Shia LaBeouf where you can curve the bullets?
Wanted.
Was he in that?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
No, that
No,
was.
he wasn't. That
was
Professor X.
Patrick Stewart. No,
I
James
don't know
James
McAvoy.
movies at all.
McAvoy.
No,
I've
James
pretended I
McAvoy is
could
like the
make a
nice
reference.
version of Shia LaBeouf, who isn't a terrible human.
He's also like
Okay.
15 years older than him, I think.
No,
Isn't he?
I don't know.
I don't know.
He's he's in a wheelchair.
We got a Wanted video game. It was not good.
Was it?
Woof.
We got a Wanted game.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
All right, so on to the next one. Here's something we talked about already. Uncharted Trilogy remastered? Question mark? A Swiss retailer named CD has listed Uncharted the remastered trilogy for PS4. The page has mysteriously disappeared, but before, the product description simply read, Uncharted 1 to 3 in HD. More information soon. And then it disappeared forever without ever being heard from again. It listed September 30th as a release date. That seems pretty plausible.
Did it say that verbatim? More information soon.
Yeah, with an exclamation
That's
point.
great.
It must have. Yeah,
I'll get you next time, and then it fell off the side of a
Yeah.
boat into the foggy miasma below.
I love that. I mean, totally. We all think this is happening, especially with Uncharted 4 being delayed. That just makes sense in the grand scheme of HD re-releases that this would exist. September 30th to me is a placeholder date because it's the last day of that fiscal quarter. I think.
Yeah,
That's
that's
how
usually
fiscal
how that
quarters
works.
work, so that's how things work. But I totally expect E3 to roll around for us to hear about this, and maybe for it to have like it has multiplayer beta for Uncharted 4.
That seems like a very safe bet.
Yeah. Which one of the interesting things this ties into one of the emails we got from where is it?
PS3.
From Connor. Yes. Do you wanna
Sure.
read this one?
Wow, that's a cool word I cannot pronounce. All right, he said, Connor said, hey everyone, my PS3's hard drive was murdered a few months ago. Makes ghost noise. That's actually not what the hard drive will do if it dies. It was, but after buying a PS4, loving it so far, I can't help but feel sad about my PS3's untimely death. I feel like I missed a lot last generation. Portal, Bioshock, Catherine, the entire Mass Effect trilogy. Do you feel my PS3 is worth repairing for some experiences to keep me going till The Phantom Pain and Uncharted 4, or does the promise of PlayStation Now seem to be all I need? Thanks for the help. Take care of yourselves. Beyond. Connor is from Magarafelt, Ireland.
Ireland is so much more magical than America.
What a cool
We
word.
don't have words
I
like that. We just have
We do in New England.
Really?
Like Housatonic,
Ooh, that sounds nice.
Niantic.
No,
Niantic?
those sound like therapy baths you would go in.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have Regina.
You're from Regina.
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 All right, then. Somebody actually hit me up on Twitter the other day and was asking, he said that he has The Last of Us on PS3, but he also has a PS4 and he hasn't played Last of Us. Should he get the HD remaster? And I told him that, I haven't touched the remaster. Is it?
Yeah.
I've played 3 Last of Us and I own the remaster and I haven't had any energy to play the remaster at all.
Yeah.
I bought it because I was like, I have a PS4 now
So,
and
but
I
I-
haven't
I
played
th-
the expansions.
I
Yeah.
think it's because you've played it already.
Yeah,
That's
and
I
also
felt
I'm
the same way.
I'm very scared of everything.
Oh, really?
So I can't play Last of Us by myself.
Why did you buy that game twice?
Did you do it on a dare?
Was it a double dare?
No, I had a breakup and now I have nobody because I'm all alone. Thanks.
So you
So
just
you got a
bought-
free. You got a breakup, but you also got a free game.
No, I
thumbs
paid
up.
for both games.
Okay, this is just getting worse.
This is the Last
I
of
am
Us
an
of story.
international
wow.
businesswoman.
Salt
I
in
am-
the wound.
Wow.
Did you say you
Excellent
didn't
work.
You didn't play the DLC? You
I haven't
didn't
played the
play Left
DLC,
Behind?
so that's
Okay.
why I bought it.
Yeah.
And it also came with my PS4. It was like, pick this package with a
Totally.
racing game, which
Yeah.
I'm a bad driver.
Yeah.
And I already have to deal with that enough on a daily
So,
basis.
yeah,
Bad driving or the end of the world
Yeah.
in
With
scariness?
spooky
Yeah,
basement dwellers.
I can't. I got spooked by The Good Wife the other day, so
That's not a
and I
spooky
hid
show.
under my desk. So that is
I would
my life.
I would say if you have a working PS3 and a working copy of The Last of Us, play it. Like to me, the remaster was beautiful. It's 60 frames per second. Some of the texture work in that game is just it's jaw dropping. But for someone who had played it already, it didn't feel like it didn't reinvent the wheel or anything like that. There are still a couple parts in that game that felt a little like I was moving a character model around a backlot set because that's kind of the way the game was designed, which is fine. But if you have access to that game and you want to save $60, play it on PS3. It's phenomenal on PS3.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the DLC is only a couple bucks more than that. It's great. Like if,
Yeah.
So yeah, back to Connor's question though. I think there's that inherent sort of almost. It's not buyer's remorse. It's like buyer's beware or something where you don't want to buy something if it's just gonna get re-released.
Yeah,
I feel like Mass Effect coming out. There's new Mass Effect in the works that's probably not coming out this year. It's probably maybe coming out next year. But I feel like we're probably going to see an HD version of that because
Yeah, so that's where I'm at now with Mass Effect. I've talked about it on the podcast before. I haven't played any of the Mass Effect games, and I want to. I feel like I'm going to get fired if I don't. But I'm weary of starting them on like a PS3 or a 360
Yeah,
because I know
totally.
this is going to be out and probably be a little bit better on PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah,
and I feel
it'll
like
be
I should just wait till
they'll give you
then.
that pile of extra costumes and
Yeah.
weird DLC stuff.
I've had the same sort of hankering about Uncharted, about wanting to replay them just because we've been reading about and seeing.
It's been so many years since Uncharted 1.
It's been
too.
and it's actually I mean
I never played 3.
yeah,
so,
it's been a long time even since 3. It's been what, like 4
That was-
years
yeah,
or something.
2011.
I mean,
Yeah.
I tried to play through the Uncharted series when 3 came out, and it was really hard.
Yeah,
How come?
going back to-
Because I played it right after Last of Us.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
is ugly in
Yeah, so
comparison.
Uncharted 1.
So I'm
like,
excited about this remaster.
Yeah, Uncharted 1 at the time was super gorgeous, but
Yep.
going back to play it, you're like, oh man, they
And
were
it's
definitely
hard.
It's super hard, and they were just getting their footing on sort of on working on the PS3. which
Yeah.
is what a lot of those early, first 2 or 3 years of games were.
Yeah.
It's the weakest bunch of the 3, and it's got a lot of those sort of like kind of canyon set pieces where you run and just have to kill 50 dudes and then they
Yeah.
leave. And it's also sort of like geographically, it's kind of the most straightforward of the games. Like
Yeah.
a lot of them bring you all over the world, and
This
that
one-
game is mostly
like
just jungle
jungles and
stuff
temples,
and a
yeah.
couple caves and stuff. But I still think it's interesting. I still think it holds up to some degree. But I look at this story and I'm like, if this does happen, these guys leaked the product listing or whatever, which happens all the time. Is this going to be just an HD port, or is it going to be like a like, are they going to remake the game like they did with The Last of Us? Because one just being kind of slightly up-resed is way different to me than like they went in and they did all the texture work over. Like if they made a jungle look as lush as it does in Uncharted 4, then like I'm all in playing these games. Totally.
Well, given how finicky the PS3 was with the cell processor and all that, and I know that I think it was Neil Druckmann was saying that they thought that porting over Last of Us was going to be way simpler than it was, and they kind of. I think that they did that partially to kind of get a feel for like what they were getting in for with Uncharted 4, and I imagine that they probably have to do a certain amount of rebuilding, just to get under the hood with to get something like Uncharted 1 running on there when it's like it's a different animal,
But to look at what Connor's question is, I mean, a PS3 you could probably get a used one now for $100.
You can buy mine.
You could buy Eden's for
Email me at eden@dogs.com.
dogs.com.
How did you get that? I've been trying to get a dogs.com email address for a decade.
All the
I feel like that's one of those ones.
I got your hookup, Brad.
Thank you very much.
That seems like one of the ones that would have like be like get your name at yourfavorithing.com.
Yep.
I had like, God, what did I had? I had one of those dash something.
Yep.
I think I had
Max at the dumpster.
something at insecure.net or something. Yeah.
Check me out at Brian at pizza/delicious.
Brian at speakingofitaly.com.
BioShock is one that I think that like conceptually, artistically, like technically speaking, like the everything. It's an Unreal game, but people are constantly like porting that into Crytek or CryEngine or Unity or whatever, making it look gorgeous. A lot of stuff about that game ages really well. The art direction, for instance.
Yep.
Unless
you're playing it on a phone.
Sure. There you go.
Or in the 1950s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Phonograph.
The controls are like the fact that you have to like click in on the stick to zoom. Like it was when we were still sort of kind of like ironing out the details of making a shooter function normally on a console controller.
Totally. I don't see some of these games being ported. I don't think Portal's going to be ported. I don't think Catherine's going to be ported. Mm-hmm. So I would say, it's going to be a relatively I want to say it's going to be slow next couple months for PS4, but I mean, we have Mortal Kombat and Witcher and Batman and Phantom Pain. But I mean, if you can find one on the cheap, like games like Catherine and Portal and the original BioShock are still definitely worth going through.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, and we're totally guilty of it, but there's a lot of sort of like pressure and guilt that comes from being a next-gen console owner, of sort of being like, oh, you don't have that yet. You're in the past. You're stuck. You're playing old games and stuff like that. But there are so many good games on the PS3.
Yeah.
Many good games. Yeah. And it's not, that library hasn't even come close to, or the PS4 library hasn't come close to matching that yet.
No.
It'll be a long time before that happens.
Totally.
So, if you have to stick with one for now, enjoy it. There's so many games there to play.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's an email. This is from John in Brooklyn, New York. You might have heard of the place.
Speaking of Italy.
Yeah.
A lot of people left Italy to go to Brooklyn, New York.
It's north of the other cities. Hey, Max, Marty, and probably Brian, whoever else is probably in the room. That would be you, Eden. I've noticed the new podcast, Beyond Crew, seems to have a real handle on humor. Max loves the puns, as far as I can tell. Marty goes for the sarcasm, and Brian usually makes jokes that line up with just what I'm thinking. I love the new show, by the way. I find myself laughing out loud while listening. Why, thank you. That's very sweet. Topic for discussion. What are your funniest game moments / funniest games of all time? Conker's Bad Fur Day immediately comes to mind for me. I remember some line about, you should probably just kill yourself, maybe simultaneously cringe and laugh nervously. Cheers, John in Brooklyn.
That's a really good question. I feel like a lot of the games that set out to be funny aren't as funny as the ones that aren't at all, but just end up being funny. Like, I don't think that when I think of the funniest games of all time, I usually think of Grand Theft Auto, and some of that's in the writing, but I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about the scenes that are like very serious, and there's a shootout, and then a car comes down the street and hits the main character, and he's like spirals in the air like a ragdoll and lands on a roof. Like stuff like that is hilarious to me. I laugh so hard at that. I think a lot of writing in games, like in games that are supposed to be funny, usually, like, I actually didn't think that Conker's Bad Fur Day was that hilarious. I thought it was funny because it was dark and it was on a Nintendo console and it was made by Rare, who had made these cutesy collectathon
That
platformers
also
for so long.
hopped very well on the whole South Park zeitgeist that was big at the time.
Yeah.
Of like something cute and adorable as cursing.
Yeah.
And it was it was especially weird because it was this game that was originally announced as like it was in the vein of Banjo-Kazooie. It was this cute game where you play this cute squirrel and you're running around the environment, and then all of a sudden we saw it again, and he's this alcoholic deposed king on a throne just drinking and talking about how he fought this giant mound of literal feces. And
I thought that some of the like the writing less, but the sort of a lot of the slapstick in it was just kind of funny enough that it was stupid that it worked. Like there's a part in that game where you have to get to the next platform, you have to jump on a sunflower's tits. And she's just like, hey, jump on my boobs, and you jump on her boobs and you get to the next level, and you're like, okay, great, thanks. And like he got drunk in that game and just like walked around throwing up on things. Like that's kind of really nice. There was these dragons in there that were smoking weed, I think, and it's
I don't
great.
even know if you're making up.
But less so were like the parts where they parodied The Matrix or Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan.
Or, like,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah, I think this question's interesting because you sort of already nailed it. There's two types of humor.
Yeah.
There's mechanical humor, which I think is like Far Cry games handle super well. Like if you play Far Cry 3 or Far Cry 4 and just go out to do something weird, you're going to have an amazing time.
Dude, like launching a grenade at a tiger and watching it like just fly. For some reason, when things blow up and people just fly away, like I laugh my ass off. Like in Far Cry, when you throw a grenade at a tiger's feet when he's running at you, like that's one of the first time we got a copy of that game early in the office, and Greg Miller and I went into a Let's Play bay, and we went to this thing on the map that said Tiger's Cave, and we're like, we got to go here. We went there. We landed our crappy prop helicopter there. We heard this growling noise. A tiger started running out of it. Greg threw a grenade. It landed at the tiger's feet, and the tiger did 17 flips in the air, dead, right towards our faces. And we ran out of the room screaming and laughing and being like, "That's the best game ever made! It's awesome!" Like stuff like that is great. And it was less so much like, "Oh, AJ has a really funny joke in this upcoming cutscene." It was more just like, "Hey, like we just blew up an eagle with C4."
See, that's the thing that I think the weird thing about comedy is that so much of it is like if you're participating in it, it'll frequently be funny. In games, you inherently have to kind of participate in it. Yeah. But when they sort of like the worst thing a game can do is make fun of itself for having a mechanic. Excuse me.
Oh my God.
Write down the swear I said.
I forgive you.
You have to write it down.
I'm writing it down.
We can't talk about exploding tigers and say
as long as this isn't as bad as last week.
Yeah, right. That was a nightmare to edit. Anyway,
I'm sorry. That was awesome.
But it's like when a game is like, another block puzzle, but then you have to do the block puzzle.
Yeah,
like The Last of Us did that. The Last of Us totally did that. You had to keep doing those stupid teaching Ellie how to swim things where you put her on a pallet and get her. And like that game to me is near perfect, but except for those moments. And those moments of having to like, and Ellie makes a joke at some point like, "Man, I probably should just really learn how to swim." And it's like,
and Joel's like, to be fair, we've had so much time to do that, and you don't have to go to school anymore because it's the apocalypse. And also, what is your damn excuse? Just learn to swim.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking.
No, totally. But it's worse when it's a tongue-in-cheek kind of like poking fun at it kind of thing. Yeah. I can't even think of an example that's off the top of my head. I love Far Cry Blood Dragon. I like it really stylistically. That's a game that's I would say pretty funny. In that it.
Bless you.
Bless you. It goes further with the. Like it pushes the envelope further than I was expecting it to, and also the fact that they were just like, let's like make fun of our own game. But I think I like Far Cry 3 better as a work of comedy because it's so unintentional. Like Far Cry 3, one of the main guys on that went back and he's like, yeah, all this is symbolic of this stuff, and this is you kill endangered animals because that's I don't know if you noticed that, but they're all endangered, and that it's a commentary on how mankind kills endangered animals, and it's like. Why did I set a bear on fire? Like, why did that happen in this game? Like, what? Like, I covered an animal with bombs and it ran into a room and blew up boys with it. They're all in there and they're just hanging out. And it's always the weird little bits of broken stuff that make that funny to me. Like, so many games are B movies. Like, they're things that are meant to be kind of ridiculed, and you have the luxury of doing that because the games are like their games are beating you up. They're weird. They're like if you could get bullied by like a B movie, that's like funny game.
So let's circle back around. Are we talking about like B movies as in like the letter, or B as in the B movie? Jerry Seinfeld's the B movie.
Oh no, not the one about actual bees.
So that wasn't a good joke.
I thought I like the idea that games are all just the B movie.
That joke was a block puzzle.
Wow.
About people that couldn't swim.
What an awful thing.
damn
Marty.
it, Marty.
What a rotten joke to tell.
Well, one block puzzle I always loved in video games wasn't one at all, but in the game Perfect Dark in the Carrington Institute, which is basically you start in this like really. For some reason, this game, it's supposed to be really serious, but it's so dumb.
Mm-hmm.
It's so dumb, but I love it for that. But Joanna Dark is a secret agent, and she works in this place called Carrington Institute, which is like this super British
like
polygon
MI7,
facility that like only 2 people actually work at. And in the basement is a shooting range, but you can drag one of the floating crates down to the shooting range and use it to keep the door open. So the assistant woman or person in the hallway, I think it's a man, stands in the hallway, and he's by this laptop where he's just kind of like, I'll load up any gun in the game and you can practice it on your range. And you're like, nah, I'm gonna keep this door open and practice it on your face. So you can just shoot arrows at him and cover him in mines, and he just stands here. He's just this British polygon man. He's just like, and you just throw crap all over him and detonate it and blow it up, but he never gets hurt. And I used to do that for hours, and that was the funniest thing in the world to me. But no one wrote that
That's
joke
unintentional
in,
humor.
you know,
Exactly.
like that's a glitch that makes makes the game funnier.
You never got into Metal Gear, right?
Well, so I was going to bring up Metal Gear because one of my favorite things in that game that's really funny is when you're in a locker and there's porn everywhere. Like that's just a joke someone threw in there, and you don't really. That's not something that like someone was like, oh, this is a funny. But like when you're in there, you're like, there's 8 dudes out there that want to kill me right now, and I'm looking at porn on the inside of a locker. That's
So
hilarious.
you got to realize that's probably my favorite thing about Metal Gear is like there's a lot of really cool stuff it's got going for it.
Yep.
But those games are so wonderfully self-aware. If you get in the locker and you like, what is it? If you can push a button where you like peek into the door, whatever you zoom in and out or whatever. And if you do that enough times to like the porno locker or something, like someone's gonna call you on the Kodak and be like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
We don't
Being
have
gross.
time for this.
You're
They
being
have
gross.
nukes."
Yeah.
And in the first one, if you start like shooting ravens with a sniper rifle, like you just do it enough and you'll get a call and it'll be like, "Snake, why are you killing birds? Why would you do that? It's really messed up." And you can call up your assistant who normally saves your game, and if you call her up and you're like, "Hey, how's it going?" She's like, "Do you want to save your game, Snake?" And you're like, "Nah." And you call her back and you're like, "How's it going?" She's like, "You want to save now?" She's like, "No." You do it enough times and she'll just stop talking to you, and you call her up and she'll just be sticking her tongue out at you, and it's like the game knows what you're doing, and that's my favorite thing. And so many games really kind of don't do that.
Yeah.
Man, I was thinking of in Snake Eater when if you spin around in circles enough, you vomit.
Yeah.
But that's a mechanic
awesome.
where because you have to eat food to survive.
Yeah.
You can eat certain things that are like rotten or poison, and like you'll be totally messed up. But if you spin in a circle and vomit it out, you're fine. And I'm like, this is the weirdest mechanic in a game. Yeah.
I mean, it's all stuff like that I love. But at the same time, even with the game knowing how you're playing in that sense, there's still that you can still screw with it. And some of the most fun I've had in Metal Gear is just messing with guards and just like trying to break the AI and trying to like screw with them. And like that's what I love about Far Cry 3 so much is that like you can torment that game. You can torture it like you're just screwing with hamsters in a maze or something.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna lure these guys over here and then just surprise them. And part of the humor to that to me is like imagining if this were to happen in real life. Never mind the fact that it would be horribly like gruesome and messed up and just awful. I love just imagining, you know, a game character as a real person who's just like that obnoxious. You know, it's basically Jackass.
Yeah. That's I love that you bring that up because I do that a lot. I did that in Watch Dogs. I did it in a lot of stealth games like Splinter Cell. I'll do it where you just kind of run up and smack a dude in the back of the head and then run away like crazy like a little kid.
Yeah.
It's basically Ring and Run, but in video games, Ding Dong Ditch, where you're just like bong, and then he's like, "Who the hell was that?" And you run.
Ring and Run was actually a name of Sonic the Hedgehog early on.
Yeah, that was
Ring
a
and
hop
Run.
and bop action.
So
platformer.
wait, you stopped the entire podcast because I made that B movie joke, and yet
I don't
Ring and Run-
like DreamWorks movies. I don't want them brought up on this show.
You and Jeffrey Katzenberg have been
No, but I
falling out.
love doing that in serious games where they're like, "Oh, good, get out. You have to go out," and you're like, "Nah, I'm not gonna do any of that. I'm gonna go and smack a cop in the back of the head, and then he's gonna turn around and be like, 'Hey!' and I'm gonna just run." And then for like 10 minutes, they're running around looking for you, and you're just like standing next to a wall, but they can't see it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts in Uncharted 2 is like there's this part where you gotta like they're being chased by this dumb tank through this whole city, and there's just like they're like, "Oh, you gotta help your injured friend. You gotta carry him along," and you get to this like stopping point, and it cracks me up so much. There's this room where there's just a bunch of pots on the shelves, and it's like one of those kind of walk and talk cutscenes where like you're still in the game, you can still control Nathan, and everyone's just like, "Nathan, this is really upsetting. That tank won't stop shooting us with its gun," and I'm just like, Really now, that's very serious. We should probably do something about it. But I'm like walking into the wall and knocking off all these jars, and there's just pots breaking in a game. Just imagining somebody breaking but like someone breaks
You gotta
a
play
jar.
more Bloodborne,
Yeah,
man.
you
There's
just roll it all
I
sorts of pots.
I was when I played it, I was somersaulting all over the place.
It's
I was like,
great.
can you imagine how much that would hurt in real? Like you go to a garden supply store, and like you touch an earthenware pot, it hurts. Like if you were to hurt to punch that, it would hurt. To somersault into that wearing a wacky feather cape like a big bird man. A dumb cowboy hat.
I love that.
Like a goth cowboy man with a
that's
with a musket.
I love. This is what I'm saying, man. This is like really the crux of all this. Is that it's less so like we wrote jokes into the script, and it's more our game's so serious, but you can interact during the cutscenes and just start jumping on the guy's head and stuff like that. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's totally breaking the fourth wall. And he's like, 7 years ago, I knew I had and you're like, ba ba da ba ba da ba da ba da ba, and just jumping around in the background. I love that stuff.
Yeah,
That's
so
so
more
much
games
fun.
are able to accomplish that. Like it is few and far between that a game is actually written well enough to make me laugh. Like Double Fine games are there. Like Tim Schafer is obviously one of those guys. But few and far between is a game that's actually sets out, tells a joke, and makes me laugh.
Yeah, I know. Like, so there's a lot of the Paper Mario games have really good writing.
Yeah.
Like, especially the ones that break the fourth wall and
Yeah,
make fun of
Treehouse as a
internet
whole.
trolls and stuff like that. Yeah, they're really good. But I love playing like Call of Duty games where they're like, "Come on, we gotta go," and you don't. Like anytime there's a game like that, we're like, "Come on, go," and you either go the wrong way or you just stand there.
You go shoot like a watermelon for 20 minutes.
Yeah, and then like there's a guy standing next to you and he's just a soldier and he's just like, "We gotta go. Come on, man." Let's move, maggot.
We got to get POTUS.
Let's move, maggot. We got to go. Come on, man. Let's move, maggot. And you're like, nah, I'm going to hang out and stare at this tree. And he's like, God damn it. And the music's like this epic music, like dun, 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 dun. And you're like, nah, I'm not going to move. I'm going to run the clock on this.
The only time I broke out laughing playing a video game was after I was like super depressed and just drunk and playing Sims for like 48 hours.
Oh, Sims is good for this.
Well, that's a special kind of depression.
I had like yes. I had this Sim character that I had actually played with for about 48 hours, and they went walking downtown to go pick up some cooking books, and they got hit by an asteroid.
Whoa!
And then I hadn't saved at all.
Oh my God.
They're just dead.
Wait, is that a thing in The Sims?
Yes.
I haven't played The Sims as the original Sims. I don't remember being able to get hit by asteroids.
That's really, wow. Man.
I love
You're
that.
in that state and you're
What
just like,
a
well, this is it.
cosmic
And I was
insult
just
to your
like-
injury.
Yeah.
That's
And that got me out of my depression. It was great. Also,
because you
I
were
was
like,
really
at least
Life
I've
is
never
short.
been hit
I could
by
get killed by an asteroid at any minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
had a Thanksgiving. I was at some friend's house, and it was a girl I had a crush on, and her friend, and like my mom and I went over there, and we had dinner with her parents, and everything was all very nice. And we were like afterwards, we're all just like the adults are all hanging out in the grown up room doing adult Thanksgiving stuff, and we're all in like her room, and we're playing the Sims together, and she and her friend are like, we're gonna play the Sims like you're supposed to, and like have a nice little family. And then something happened, like somebody was leaving or something, and so they got up to leave, and I was like, I'm taking off pretty soon. I know how I'm gonna handle this. And I just went in and I was like, you know what you need in your living room is 100 rugs, and then a nice model rocket kit and some fireplaces.
Yep.
And then I was like, this swimming pool is pretty great, but I think that ladder makes it a little bit garish.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just like they came back and they're like, oh, are you taking off? And I'm like, yeah, it's time to go. Happy Thanksgiving. It was great. And they look over and there's just Sims are all dead. And I was like, well, see ya. I'm out of here.
There was an
Killed your
actual-
fake family.
When I was 16, I was dating somebody, and I've kept every single notebook I've ever kept, and there's a lot of them. And I was going through them the other day. And there's this picture that he drew of him like, Eden, let's cuddle, and me with a lot of acne on my face for some reason.
He drew that?
Yes.
That's weird.
That was really nice of him, eh? And he's like, no, I'm playing The Sims. No cuddling.
Yeah. No,
That was basically my life.
yeah.
That
much-
is a weird comic. It's
That
a
is-
weird
that-
comic.
that is an independent
We
comic.
broke up.
That is like Ghost World.
Yeah.
And now I'm
Um,
comically single.
All right then. Okay. All right. Fine.
Way
sure.
to bring it there, Eden.
So here's one. Again, what are we talking about? What do we talk about on this show?
No, we got questions. This is your show this
right,
week. 'Cause
all
it's
right.
not the news show this week.
Hi, Max, Marty, and the rest of the Beyond crew. I was happy to hear Max bring up the Axiom Verge soundtrack a few weeks ago. Nope. That was
me.
Brian. Yeah, that was
You
Brian.
guys sound alike.
Do we?
Nope.
Yeah, you guys both sound like angry
Because on
Italians.
Max and I's other podcast, there's somebody that sounds exactly like Max. His name's Scott Bromley, and they legitimately sound like each other. I don't sound anything like Max.
I think I'm a changeling.
Is that what you are?
No, I'm a chameleon. But you
Comma,
couldn't tell.
comma,
I
comma,
shifted it
comma,
right
comma,
in front of you.
chameleon. I'm a professional singer.
What's the rest of this about?
Yeah. Anyway, what are your favorite video game soundtracks? I'll go for the easy answer and the most likely answer. Marty's Journey. The music is amazing. Composition by Austin Wintry. Grammy nominated because that means things. They give Fergie. They give awards to Fergie. That is amazing as a standalone composition, but the way it blends with the movements and environments in game makes it my number one choice. Thanks for your time and keep up the good work, Todd Christensen.
Journey is super up there for me in terms that soundtrack that makes it's one of the rare games that if you play on silent or if you play on mute or if you play while listening to something else, you are missing out.
Yeah.
On some of the emotional payoff of the game.
Let me ask the room a question. How often do you guys listen to video game soundtracks outside of the video games that they're in while you're playing?
Pretty often.
Do you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which ones do you listen to?
I'm building a pretty good vinyl collection here. I got GTA soundtrack, fantastic.
Well,
that's
licensed
the
music.
score.
The score. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, the Tangerine Dream and the Alchemist and all that. Incredible score. I think that's the only soundtrack I have on my phone actually. Hotline Miami.
Yeah,
gorgeous,
incredible.
lovely. Blood Dragon. Great one.
Yeah, sure.
That's the key thing there is that all those soundtracks are made by regular musicians. Mm-hmm. Not to say that game musicians aren't musicians, but I think that
Did you say game musicians aren't real musicians?
Game.
I heard that too. IGN exclusive.
I work for a video game website. Yeah. But it's not to say that there's that they're less credible, but I think that musicians who are usually working without the confines of this has to be in this level where you're blowing up oil drums or whatever.
Yeah,
they're not thinking within those.
Yeah, The Last of Us.
Yeah,
that was the guy who did the score for Sin Nombre and all these amazing movies.
Last of Us has an excellent score.
Yeah, that whole that super barren, sparse guitar. Mm-hmm. The Katamari Damacy soundtrack is incredible. The Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future soundtracks are both awesome.
A lot of video game soundtracks don't, or at least modern ones even more, don't really work too much outside of the confines of the game, because the way video game soundtracks are designed, they have to sort of inherently ramp up with the player movements, which means they're designed in chunks. Like we did Andrew Goldfarb, who went on to work for Borderlands, did an awesome interview about Borderlands a couple years ago with one of their musical directors, who basically talked about how video game soundtracks have to basically count for the times in the game where there's idiots like me who are like, I'm not going to go yet, I'm going to stay. So you can't just have this music keep ramping up if a character doesn't move. So they have to be sort of built in chunks. So it's like, this is how intense this scene is, but when I cross this imaginary threshold in the game, more of the symphony sort of builds up in it, and all of a sudden it starts getting bigger and more
within
bombastic.
a giant synthesizer. Right?
Yeah, it's very interesting like that. So a lot of it, to me, it's hard for me to listen to, like Nintendo sent me the Smash Brothers soundtrack, and I put it on while I was cooking dinner the other night, and I'm like, this doesn't work. Yeah. I can't function. I'm not beating up anybody in a frantic fighting game to this music, right?
Did you try tenderizing meat while listening to this?
That would have been great. Or I'm just throwing eggs all over my apartment. So a lot of that stuff's interesting, and I know that I've tried to I know the Final Fantasy stuff. When I was in college, I tried studying to it because it's that's a little more palatable because it's kind of it's orchestral and it's instrumental. But not all of it really works. I would say to me personally, most video game soundtracks do not work outside of the video game that you're playing them in.
Yeah, I agree mostly with that. I still a couple of the things I write to are Jim Guthrie's Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery soundtrack.
That was so good.
Which is still absolutely phenomenal. I liked Darren Korb's Bastion and Transistor soundtracks. These are games that really put music first. The Proteus soundtrack is really good. The Hohokam
Does that really... Okay, wait, hold on. Proteus, that's a totally... That game is a soundtrack.
Yeah.
The whole thing is that game is the sounds you hear are in relation to the things around you. Yeah. A tree will make a noise and then it'll loop that noise.
Yeah.
I feel like that doesn't count as a soundtrack. That's the game itself is the soundtrack.
That totally counts.
Right, but you can't. How do you put that on a record if everything's a procedurally generated forest where the woodland animals make different noises?
I have a.
Stay tuned for the next Eating the Cat album.
Yeah, I have a small a child that I've paid to play the game next to me when I want to listen to it, and so the child follows me around, and I have headphones in his video game.
Wow,
and that's how I listen to it.
That is how the Big Brother program works.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how IGN works. Yeah, see, I'm doing something good for the youths. Huh. Soundshape's also had a really good soundtrack.
Soundshape, again, that's a synthesizer.
Stop
rock
compartmentalizing me.
I don't know. Mario Paint had a good soundtrack.
Did you say
Hero?
Rock Band? That's cheating.
Yeah. Surprisingly
Hero?
enough, I got the Hotline Miami soundtrack, which I was really excited about, and I was expecting it to be like way too intense for doing stuff. Like I'll put it on. I mean, I got it on physical records because I'm an ironic ass like that. And I just here's a downloadable game that I only got on vinyl. But I put it on and I'm like, I'm gonna go do some stuff around the house. Like I'm gonna clean my house. I'm gonna have like a big cup of coffee and like mop the floor. And this music about killing people with a mop is gonna help me do that. Put it on. And it's like surprisingly laid back. Like Brian, you were saying that like having to repeat the same area over and over again, like it kind of it'll beat the life out of a track. Like you get tired
really
of hearing
does,
it at a certain point.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, doing the opposite and putting it on by itself and just letting it sit. Maybe it's just the pacing of the game or something, but like it's those a lot of those tracks are like pretty chill on their own.
I think it's really fascinating because that actually makes the standalone product almost better than the actual game because unless you're A+ perfect at that game, which I don't think anybody is on their first few goes at it. But there were songs in that game that I was like the first 2 times I heard them, I'm like, this is one of the most just like dope pumping electro joints I've ever heard in my entire life. And 45 minutes later, I was like, I never want to hear this again because every time it hits that one beat, a cop shoots me in the face, and that's what I identify with it. So I feel like listening to that album outside of the confines of the game is probably really awesome, which I can't do unless I buy it on physical media because you can't just go on iTunes and buy the Hotline Miami soundtrack because they're so
Only
cool.
available on
They hate
vinyl.
money.
There's a fake Hotline Miami soundtrack on
That I
iTunes,
did
right?
buy, yeah. That sucked.
You were tricked.
I was tricked.
That's annoying.
Don't buy whatever Hotline Miami soundtrack is on iTunes.
Yeah, that's Gloria Estefan is a ripoff
She's a
artist.
charlatan.
Yeah, she should know better by now.
Eden, what about you? You are a musician, so and a programmer. So like what's your take on music and games?
So I hardly pay attention most of the time.
Really?
Well, I do, but it's more like I'm experiencing it, and then when I'm done the game, I don't really think about it. I never listen to game soundtracks. One thing I did really like was, I think it was Teamwork made Ocarina of Rhyme.
Oh yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
And I still listen to that constantly.
Yeah.
Have you heard Chrono Jigga?
No.
That is real. It's
That's a
really.
real thing.
It's
Have you
great.
heard
Don't.
Goldenfly? That's 007.
Is that real? Actually?
Yeah, Goldenfly is
Oh,
great.
really?
I was wondering which of you is gonna be the first one to lie.
There's
Yeah.
Vinyl Fantasy 7.
No, you made that one up.
No, that's a real one. That one's good.
So I don't buy vinyl ever because it's rude to the planet. That's actually not why. It's because
Rude to the planet. It's rude to Etra, the goddess of life.
But yeah, like it's kind of weird because I've been kind of working on hopefully doing more music for video games. Don't know anything about music and video games.
Yeah. Well, maybe you should listen to it.
Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should
I
keep it that
should
way.
just
you
have
know?
a fresh take.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't think
Like-
those Tangerine Dream guys know much about games, but they made some awesome music for GTA.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I have a song in a game called Zeo Drifter, and it plays when you beat the game. And I was gonna do that anyway because it's like a quirky little Metroidvania game. I think it's coming. It's probably coming to a PlayStation platform soon. But when I finished the game and my song started playing, I was like, "Damn, that is an awesome feeling."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was just a weird. I've never had anything that happened to me before.
I recently did the song for the Paradise Never game trailer.
Oh, cool.
And that was a
Yeah.
pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, it's nuts, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting though that you'll play games but kind of see the music as secondary. It's not something you're actively noticing.
It's not that it's secondary. It's part of the environment. It's not like I go and actively seek out the trees from Far Cry in the real world.
Right. No, that's because that's kind of how I feel. I feel like
You'd have to go all the way to the South Pacific to find them.
That would be
They're
expensive.
exotic trees. Some of them can be found at your local gardening stores, but they're very small there. Sorry, go ahead.
But it's just like there's I rarely could tell you what the songs sounded like in a game. Only one is probably like Binding of Isaac because I've died so many times in that game. I actually don't get annoyed with that song. I like that song that they play over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But
that's how I
it's
feel about
just-
Bubble Bobble.
You know what's a good
There's
song?
one
is
song in that game.
the death song from Uncharted 2 that's just like one guy just like freaking out on a vuvuzela.
Yep.
And he's like,
No!
Are you a cat in heat?
no, but they got a cat in heat and hooked it up to a trumpet to make the death noise for that game.
And then put it like in front of a theremin.
That's one of the funniest noises in a video game.
More games need theremins.
Yeah, I love so I love listening to old game soundtracks, and I don't know
How
much about
old?
music. Like 100. I
No,
like the
'cause I-
soundtrack to Hula Hoop.
Like, I mean,
Like Super Metroid.
Are you bumping? You're bumping like NES songs
Here
in
and
the
there.
whip?
I frequently get the
whip?
urge to listen to
That's a car.
the like Super Metroid soundtrack, Star Fox.
Never heard that?
The Dr. Robotnik Mean Bean Machine's first level has an awesome sound.
I don't know why I'm surprised, but I'm surprised. Yeah.
That's awesome. Damon Hatfield and I talked about doing a remix project back in the day that was basically just remixes of old 8-bit games.
Well,
and calling the album Double Dragon.
okay.
When
So-
I was
so
little,
what
the first like songs that I wrote lyrics to, I would sing along to the Mario soundtrack.
Really? Yeah, the things I like, I'll hear, like I listen to also a lot of 80s music. I listen to a lot of music that was, and like 70s funk and stuff that was popular when theoretically these soundtracks are being written.
Yeah.
And I'll hear like similar hooks or like stuff that and I can't tell if it's just because it's just associating sounds or whatever, or if it was in fact something that influenced something else. But like there are bits and pieces of Super NES or Super NES soundtracks that sound a lot like new wave hooks and
totally.
stuff like Marauder and Blondie and like
Well, a lot of them
Talking
were
Heads
probably directly lifted.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no,
like
totally.
100%.
I mean, there's like the Earthbound soundtrack. People have removed parts of it, and they completely steal Beatles songs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, they were stealing covers back then. If you look at the cover of Contra, it was basically just
But it's
Predator.
It's
Yeah.
kind of funny because it's like sort of an outsider perspective too. Because like you'll have like a Super Metroid level that's about weird frog funguses that are attacking Samus or whatever, but it sounds like the beginning of Talking Heads burning down the house.
Yeah.
And it's like you could not have a further stretch from like somebody who's working on Super Metroid in like the early 90s to what David Byrne was doing in New York in the 80s. Like it's just a different, so it's kind of repurposing it more than anything.
Yeah.
It's almost
Yeah.
like this kind of it's a transformative process. So I don't know.
I've always had this idea I'm not a musician. I don't understand how music works, but I think it'd be cool in a game, like these open world games that have like a morality system where you're really sort of forging your own path. That never seems to speak with the music. And so I always thought of this game of something like a Fable game or like an Elder Scrolls game where the decisions you make along the game impact sort of what your theme is. And so that by the end of the game, my character's theme can be way different than one of your themes.
So if
because
you-
I am just this awful human being, and so I have this sort of thunderous evil, like Vader-esque theme.
Yeah, so
whereas-
I like the idea that it's just full on like butt rock.
Yeah.
I was
Like,
gonna
you
say,
just
like,
sound
if
like-
you're angry and brooding, you're just throwing your pillow at the door, and you're like, "I hate you, Dad." And you're
And it's just
listening to
taking
Korn.
back Sunday.
Yeah, buddy, here comes a bad girl crawling in my skin.
Man, I would love that if at the end of the game it just paired you up with a song. Like, This is how you played.
You're so
GTA
evil
5.
that the only song that's playing is Nickelback's "Animals."
Yeah.
It's a song about banging underage girls in a car
And
by
if you
train
do-
tracks.
if you're nice,
Canada,
it's just
Canada.
if you're nice, it's just Pharrell's happy for 15
Yeah.
days straight. You're like, I'm happy.
What's the message of this game? Everything's
great.
screwed up and it's wrong.
Yep.
It's a bad place.
That was good. We've hit our hour mark almost.
Oh wow, how about that?
Do you have to run yet?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so do we wanna should we close it out and let Brian do his pick for the Essential 50?
Yeah,
we have some
sure.
good questions. We'll save them for next week.
Now, if we want to get through a question real quick, we can do it. Do you want to do one more?
Here's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
This
one
is
more.
from Jose Nunez. He says he's in the Facebook group. He says, "What would you want to see the future Vita be? What would you want it to do?"
Oh, I want it to exist first and foremost. Like I'm sort of worried about them ever making either handheld again. I think like I think the PSP and the Vita both sold enough to be considered successes to some degree, right? The Vita probably less so for a number of reasons, but I've been a big handheld gamer since they started. Like this, I mean, before the Game Boy, I had Tiger electronic handheld systems. I had Game & Watches that like my grandmother would go to like the Woolworths in New York City and be like, "I got you a Donkey Kong," and just hand me this thing and I'd be like, "What's this?" And open it. It looked like a little purse, and I'd open it up and it'd be like, "Holy crap! There's 2 TVs in here that play one thing." I've always loved the notion of handheld gaming. Obviously, mobile gaming's put a major dent in that, but I think there's still a fight left in that dog, and I would love to see a successor to the Vita. I think that they need to I've always said, they need to get away from that open face sandwich design and go with something clamshell. Like that is, I think that's incredibly important. I think
Yeah.
it's something that sort of divides. It makes what I love about the Vita is that it's like this amazing, well-designed system, but it totally feels like something for grown-ups.
Yeah.
And that's not how you sell millions of units. Like you go the Nintendo route, you make something clamshell, you make it a little cheaper, easier to produce, something a kid can throw into the backseat of a car or into his book bag and go to school.
Yeah.
Whereas the Vita and the PSP, they always required like a purse, a satchel, some sort of carrying case.
You're always worried about scratching up the case.
Totally,
Or your backpack or in your luggage.
Because the screen is so front and center, and
Yeah.
it's a gorgeous screen. You never want anything bad to happen
Yeah,
to
and
it.
if you're gonna be throwing that much money at a screened product that's shiny like that, you're gonna get an iPhone. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like if
Or
they
both, if you'll
Yep.
ritzy.
if you're rootsy, if they're gonna do a successor, I'd like to see it be clamshell. I know a lot of people are probably mad at that because they want this like really boutique, amazing looking thing. But I think you can do both. I think there's a way to make it so it feels compact and it feels contained and it feels safe, but it also doesn't lose the fact that the Vita is a gorgeous piece of machinery.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't entirely agree with the clamshell thing.
That's fine.
I still think the original Vita. I think the Vita. I like how it feels better than the 3DS. Just in terms of, I mean, like you said, it feels like a piece of electronic hardware as opposed to a toy.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
isn't pejorative or anything for either of them, but I just like the way the Vita feels. I think the one thing going forward is it needs internal memory, and it needs enough of it to where I don't have to worry about filling up my dumb card. I don't have to worry about buying this $75 memory card.
And it's got to be some sort of standard memory system, right?
Totally,
Nothing
yeah.
like this proprietary $95 for 6 gigs garbage that they've been trying to hustle the last few years. Where I read stories about price drops, and it's like 64 gig is now down to $65. Like that's not a deal. You're like that's like give us something that we can work with. You know, you can get an SD card for your 3DS for $15. Like, bring it down to that.
Yeah. I mean, I love specific decisions. I love cross-buy and cross-save.
Yep.
I think it's awesome, especially for indie games. Like, there's no reason I shouldn't be able to play Hotline Miami on everything or Spelunky on everything.
I don't
or
think
Relevancy
we've
on-
seen the beginning of the Vita and the PS4 playing together yet.
Yeah.
Like we sort of like I think that PlayStation Now, or is it PlayStation Now? Is it
Yeah.
live? What?
No.
Now? Yeah.
Play Now Live.
PlayStation Now, I don't think we've seen the beginning of that like working. They're still kind of trickling that out in beta. It's not really there yet, but I mean, once we start getting like, you could play Uncharted 3 on your handheld on the toilet, Like it's just make that work and we got something.
Which
know?
I feel like
I
we're
really need it to be waterproof because I only play my Vita in the bathtub.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
get a nice Ziploc bag,
Yeah.
shove it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, who was it? It was I think it was Ben Kuchera at Polygon who tweeted the weirdest pro tip. He's like, "Hey everybody, if anybody else has a 7-inch Kindle Fire or whatever, I'll have you know that they're exactly the same size as." It was like a diaper disposal bag, or it was a really specific electronic device, and then a really extremely specific kind of embarrassing type of plastic bag. And he's like, they're just the same size if you like to, do stuff in the bath. It's just like, so weird. Damn it, Ben.
I have like a desk set up by my bathtub, and since I work from home, sometimes I program from the bathtub.
Okay, Margot
so,
Tenenbaum.
I don't know
I hope
what
you've
that
got it
reference
strapped to the
is.
radiator or something.
Did you really not
Can't
know what
be
that
good for your
Will
eyes.
Tenenbaum's reference was?
No, I didn't.
Oh boy.
Wow. You work from home. You should put on some movies in the background.
Canada doesn't have those films yet.
Oh, I do
We're
want
watching
to.
Die Hard today for the first time.
I know. Are you watching it for the first
Yeah.
time
Yes.
too?
You and
Is
Brian
Die Hard
Albert.
spooky?
Die Hard is not spooky.
Spooky?
Yeah, she's very worried that Die Hard is scary.
I mean, it's tense at moments.
I wouldn't say it's scary though. It's not spooky.
No,
I mean, that being said, it's scarier than The Good Wife. So you
I
might
mean,
be in
if
trouble.
it's sort of scary in that a man is tricked into thinking he's going to a vacation Christmas party, but he's really not. He's going to fight bad guys.
And it's probably scary for the
That
bad
is
guys
every
because
Christmas party for me.
Yep.
he dies hard. He doesn't die because it's too difficult for him to
Yep.
do it.
yeah, to die softly.
All right.
Great.
So,
There's that. I could go on the Vita thing forever.
yeah. On that note, I think we're going to go over the new games of the week because we don't have any news.
The new ghosts.
There's the news ghost.
Yep.
News games ghosts.
Yeah.
Here's what's coming out. Best of Arcade Games Deluxe Edition. Brick Breaker, Tetraminos, Bubble Buster, and Air Hockey. Rediscover 4 timeless classics. Next, Blocksec for the PS Vita digital.
These are all weird names.
Is
Yep.
Viva Pinata coming to PlayStation yet?
No,
I wish, but no.
you're gonna have to wait for the rest of your life for that. That's
Um,
that's sadly never gonna happen.
Gradius 5, It's a PS2 classic.
That's too many Gradiuses.
Grand Theft Auto: The Trilogy, PS2 classic bundles coming to digital.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Doesn't say if that's. I don't think that's coming to PS4. PS4 isn't playing PS2 games, right?
No.
Stupid question.
Yeah,
No.
everything's the dumbest with those.
Yeah, it's really who's on first there. All right, Medieval Defenders is coming to PS Vita. That's digital. Here's a big one: Mortal Kombat X, the grossest game of all time, where you could rip off a man's testicle and beat him to death with it, and then carve it into a skull, and then crush the skull with your hair.
So they have fatalities, and now they also have brutalities because fatalities just weren't mean enough.
Brutalities aren't new; they've been around for a while.
Have they?
They were just angrier
They
fatalities.
should have rudalities,
They should have brutalities,
or you just rude.
or it's a sick burn.
Oh, like when you tell somebody that you love them, but it's a lie.
Yeah, that's just called realities.
Yeah.
A reality.
Ah!
Hey, Scorpion, how come you have a skull for a face, but you got skin on your arms and stuff, huh? And he's just like, looks at his feet, and it's like, reality! Flawless victory. Yeah, Tesla Grad is coming to PS4 and PS3. It's a 2D puzzle platformer with action elements.
Is
Interesting.
that Die Hard?
It's like Die Hard.
Like,
yeah.
oh yeah, I like Die Hard. Titan Souls, PS4, PS Vita, digital cross-buy.
Yep.
That's a fun time. You guys
That's a
check
cool
that
game.
out.
8.0. Go purchase that and play a fun video game.
We Are Doomed is coming to PS4 digitally.
That sounds spooky.
It's a twin-stick shooter where you zap polygon baddies. And of course... Sorry. And we're also doing our ongoing PlayStation Plus book club. We didn't give it a chance to get to that, but we're playing Aru's Awakening, and that's on PS3 and PS4, and Monster Bag on the PS Vita.
Yeah, those games are free on PlayStation Plus.
Yeah, so go check
we're
those out.
We're gonna have a full segment on it next week.
Yep.
So closing out, Ryan Scott.
Ryan Clements.
Ryan Scott.
Shout out to Ryan Clements and Ryan Scott. I love all those Ryans.
All the Ryans are the best. What is your selection this week for the Essential 50?
So this is sort of a safe bet, but I want to throw it out there because I feel like it didn't sell as many units as it should have or deserve to. Not like I'm really invested in how much a game should sell, but I feel like more people should have played this game, and it's called Guacamelee.
Yes.
And Guacamelee is on PlayStation Vita, and it's on PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. So you really have no excuse. I think it's even on like Wii U and a bunch
It's
of
on
other...
Wii U. It's on Xbox One. It's on PC.
Yeah, you really have no excuse. But it started on the PlayStation 3 and Vita, and that's where I played it first. And it had you could actually cross save, jump between the two.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And it is what we have started calling a few years ago a Metroidvania. And
It's also it could be also considered a WrestleVania.
yeah, it is a WrestleVania. We talked about this on the show a lot, and we talked about it on the old show a lot. But it's a really wonderful sort of action platforming game, starring this guy who has to basically beat up. He's sort of a lucha libre wrestler and has to fight other people of his ilk and also animals. You can turn into a chicken. There's a beautiful woman that you get. Now, a lot of the things that a lot of people were deterred by this game was that it's full of memes.
Deterred.
Yes, deterred.
You said deterred.
Did people used to make fun of Destructoid by calling it deterred?
No one ever called it that.
Okay.
No one ever did that.
Nobody ever called me that, Dad. Leave me alone.
Did anybody ever call you Marturd?
Ooh, that's
Turdy
this
Sleva.
Turdy
real.
Sleva.
What about bag of
The worst part about that is I have to write it down. God, what was it?
You have to go listen to that insult again when you censor that part where I called you a bag of
Stop doing that, Brian.
Sorry.
Max, defend me.
So Guacamelee is awesome. Yeah, so there's a lot of like internet meme stuff. There's like kind of like grumpy cat portraits in the background, and they're kind of like.
Destructoid's actually in the background.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I remember seeing that. And it's a
Greg in that game?
he's in the PC version.
Yeah.
They made a skin where he's wearing his Up at Noon suit. So yes, Greg is in that game. And it's just really cool. It's really fun. It's incredibly difficult at times.
Totally.
Some of the boss fights are like Bloodborne level of throw your controller angry.
Yeah, some of them get real bad.
Yeah, so that's the only way I would sort of be a little hesitant to push people 100% into this game, because there are times where I wanted to walk away for good.
If you're playing on cross-buy, though, swapping between the two is frequently a good way of sidestepping a really frustrating boss fight.
Yeah.
Both because you have to step away, but...
Yeah,
totally.
Will it make me drop my Vita in the bathtub?
It might make you throw your Vita.
It might make you
drop
go
it too.
draw a bath and then throw the Vita in there because you're mad.
Yeah,
true.
because you're
Yeah.
mad.
With a hairdryer.
That game is super
Extra.
gorgeous. Its score is awesome.
Yeah.
The game is beautiful. It has those two. It has sort of like the Day of the Dead world.
Yeah.
The writing's actually decent. It has some funny characters. Also, Drinkbox. Those guys are incredible. They're working on Severed now, which you and I played at PAX.
Yeah,
We're
awesome
super excited
game.
for that.
Yeah, very awesome so far
That's
from what we've
probably
seen.
the next Vita game that I'm super stoked about.
Yep.
I I don't know. I have weird reservations about that. Like, I love that game to death. Like, I gave that game a perfect score when it came out, and I reviewed it, and I think it's fantastic. But for whatever reason, it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's too fresh. I feel like I don't know. It's too recent, and it never felt like specifically like a PlayStation game. I don't know. That's like a weird. I'm not shooting it down
What does
entirely.
No, you're
PlayStation
allowed
game
to. That's
feel
the,
like?
that's the whole point of
Yeah.
this forum.
You meant like necessarily an exclusive PlayStation.
Oh.
Yeah, like I think of it, and I was like, I'm trying to remember. I mean, I played it on PS3 and Vita. It wasn't exclusive when it came
It was
out, right?
it was a
Yeah,
timed
yeah.
exclusive.
Okay.
But eventually
Then
came
it-
to PS3 and
Yeah.
then Wii U.
Yeah.
I would say that's where most people experienced it, and that's where it started, where its home began. But yeah, if you want to push back against it, I'm totally okay with that. I mean, it is new, it is fresh. I could have gone for another old deep cut like Killer 7, but
Yeah.
I feel like this is one that's it's not your Uncharted. It's not your sort of Gran Turismos or GTAs. It's nothing like that scope. And it didn't reach that many people. So if I can give it another nudge to get people to try it, then sure. But if you want to shoot it down, sure, we can go to war.
This is gonna get.
I mean, it'll be like a mild war.
I don't really know. I don't know what we do actually. Like we kind of each
Someone's
stare.
literally screaming in the other room.
I don't know why they
War
do
has
that.
already erupted.
We
We have
started a war.
to,
Begun the Great Guacamole Wars have.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess
No.
let us know if.
Yeah.
If-
How about let's in the comments? How about you decide?
Yeah.
If it makes it.
Yeah, let us know. Chime in.
Yeah.
That's your call, beyond listeners.
What I will say is that guacamole is dumb. I'm not a fan.
Okay,
of
now you
guacamole.
can get the hell
the
out.
dip?
Yeah, I think it is one of the worst.
'Cause it
dips.
doesn't
And I'm
have
a fan of
melee in it?
sauces.
I think Brian's right. You are a bag of.
I'm jeez.
Write
Yeah,
that
write
down.
that down.
Yeah, you bag.
I agreed with you. I like guacamole.
The old bag.
Just the worst.
On that note, I think we are going to roll the credits and play the lovely
I gotta
theme
run. I love
song.
you guys.
All right, you can follow Brian on Twitter. He's Agent Bizzle.
That's right.
You can follow Marty. He's McBiggity.
I am.
Eden, you are Eden the cat. And where can they
Yes.
hear the things you do?
You can visit orphanmothers.bandcamp.com and jimmyandeden.com to hear podcasts. And what else do I do?
Go to
Music?
various, You can go to various Vox websites.
EdenTheCat.bandcamp.com. I'm on YouTube too, some places.
Skrillex.bandcamp.com.
Yeah.
TaylorSwift.tidal.org.
Taylor Swift sent me a restraining order.
Really?
No.
Oh man, that would have been.
She's
awesome.
not really
I
one
would
to
have
talk, but,
podcasted for
yeah.
another half hour if that was.
All
I
right.
love you guys.
All right.
Bye, Brian.
Bye.
He
Bye,
literally
everybody.
he literally couldn't wait.
All right.
So.
What should we do? Well, what should we do with? Well, Brian's gone. I guess we could just. Yeah, rip his paper out.
He doesn't get anything.
make cranes?
All right. On that note, I think we're done. Beyond, everybody.
Done.
Beyond.